and he always gets me some great talking points. I'm not exactly sure where he goes with some of these. But the first one, it's alive, it's alive.
Well, you got to remember, Gary, I was brought up in the 60s and early 70s when every station had a creature feature. I think around here Chuck Akery had something. Where we were at, we had access to WGN through an antenna. And they had creature features on Saturday night. I remember the neatest things. My mother would buy me a pizza and a chocolate milkshake, and she'd sit me down in front of the TV, and they ran a lot of those old Universal monster movies.
Yes.
And one of them they ran was The Bride of Frankenstein, which was voted, I believe, the best horror movie ever made. Anyway, one of the lines from that movie was, it's alive. When they shocked the lady monster, for lack of better terms, and she started moving, and Dr. Frankenstein wheels her out, and she's moving, and he goes, she's alive. And what I was going to, what that's related to, long roundabout way,
no kidding,
is the soil. For our farmer friends, and a lot of them realize that soil just isn't organic matter and ground up, glacial till. It actually is composed of those two things, but also bacteria, insects, all kinds of little invertebrates that are in there that as you increase them, your yield increases too. So keep in mind that it's a living thing. Soil is not just an inanimate object to hold and stick seeds in. It's actually a living thing. And the more you stimulate those living things in that soil, the more your yield has a tendency to go up. And, I've talked about cover crops before, and that's a big way of kind of getting those little creatures fed and keep them in good shape. But there's other things you can do, too, like no-till, using some organic fertilizers, planting a lot of things that are green and keeping that field green all year round. That was a big point.
It'll be a growing season before you know it. We'll have you back here in April, and we'll be closer. They'll be in the fields.
Well, I saw my first planter outside of a shed this morning on the way over. It's close.
Yeah.
And some of those guys might be doing some tillage this week. They're looking at that forecast on Friday, and they might be trying to beat that. But the soil's still pretty gooey on top. So and the best thing you can do is when it's gooey like that, just stay off of it. Let it dry just a little bit more.
Good idea. So what's happening?
Well, the SWCD's got a couple things. I spoke to Blake yesterday on the phone. The NAGs have a scholarships, and that doesn't mean a bunch of people to come over and yell at you continually. That's the Natural Area Guardians. So if you're in college and you're thinking about an environmental or a conservation, ag conservation, doesn't matter, wildlife conservation, you might want to get a hold of Blake at the office. I think they're $500 to $1,000 scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a huge amount, but it pays for a little bit. And I know when I was working at the office, we used to give 1 to 2 of those away a year. And I don't know what the deadline is. I didn't get that on the notice. But get a hold of Blake as soon as you can and find out what has to be done. It's a simple application, too. I do remember that. So that's one thing. A couple sales things. Native plant sale deadline is the 21st of this month. Fish orders are due also on the 21st. And if you've never ordered fish from the SWCD, it's kind of an event. People pull up, we give them a date and a time, and people pull up, and a big truck pulls up with 3 tanks full of water. And a lot of times they'll have the fish pre-bagged, but sometimes they won't. And what I used to do is stand down below, and the guy who ran the truck would scoop them out and put them in a bag, and I'd have to put a rubber band on, and I just got soaked, and I smelled like a sardine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cool thing, and everybody kind of knows everybody, and if there's somebody new, you get to meet some decent people, and real friendly folks, too. So, but if you ordered fish, 21st of this month is the deadline for the orders.
I would imagine this is to stock your ponds.
Yeah, stocking ponds. The guy that runs or actually supplies the fish is also a fisheries biologist. So if you have something that needs to be evaluated in your pond, whether it's what's in there now, maybe something to, some waterborne herbicides, something to control the weeds and algae, this is a good opportunity to at least chat with him and maybe set up an appointment too.
The fish that you put in, do they kind of restock themselves?
Depends. The bluegills, like the panfish, normally will. In fact, you have to be real careful of what kind of bluegill you put in. If you put in a normal bluegill, under certain circumstances, they'll take over the whole pond, and you'll have a bunch of anywhere from 3 to 5 inch bluegills, and they won't grow anymore. Channel cat normally don't. They have to have cavities, and they like a flowing stream or water when they breed and spawn. So, but yeah, it depends. Some people with bigger ponds have actually, or lakes, have actually stacked them with walleye and perch. I wouldn't recommend that on a smaller pond, though. Yeah, they'll, walleyes are pretty good predators. And the other thing they like to, people used to ask me about a lot was northern pike. And if you want to clean your pond out, sure, throw a few pike in there. You won't have any fish in about 2 years. But these guys, the guys that run the truck, like I said, they're fisheries biologists. They know what they're talking about, and they've dealt with, anywhere from half-acre ponds to 20-acre lakes. So they know what to do and what to recommend. So if you want an opportunity, maybe stop the day the fish do come in and chat with them if you have a concern.
Sounds interesting.
You bet.
Volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, if you're looking for something to do and maybe get involved in conservation field, there's some opportunities coming along with these sales. We got tree sales coming up, and Blake's going to need some help. And I believe the trees are coming in April 8th, if I remember right. But, you need to call and confirm that with him, and I'm sure he would appreciate help. You could help unload the trees from the semis. Actually, I'm going to be there that day. And then the seedlings need to get wrapped and labeled and everything, too. So that's a big workload, too. So if you could help him. And right now, he's the only district employee, and I think there's only one federal employee left in the office. They've been infected, I was going to say, but affected by what's going on in Washington, too. So 2 of the federal employees have left, and I think another one took the buyout. So,
interesting.
Yeah, even a local, there's been a local effect, too.
I guess so.
Anyway,
what is the phone number real quick? 815-772?
2124 extension 3.
2124.
Yep. And that'll get you directly to Blake, too.
Okay, and we'll get that number again at the end of the program. Food plot seed?
Yeah, check with Blake. I asked him about that yesterday, and they're partnering up again with the Pheasants Forever group in Carroll County. And I think he's taking a list, and he's got a letter you have to fill out and send to Carroll County to let them know what you need and want. But it's pretty easy. Normally they have corn, sorghum, a sorghum mix, may have soybeans on occasions too, and sunflowers.
Again, visiting with Dave Harrison. It's almost here. What's almost here?
Turkey season. I don't get excited about many things. I'm pretty laid back. But one of the things I really get fired up about is turkey season. It's fun. The youth season, in fact, we're looking at the 29th and 30th, the first weekend, and then the 5th and 6th of April. And that's for kids only, under 18. You have to be with an adult, but it's designed to give the kids the first shot at the flock.
Oh, okay.
Without a lot of other people running around out there. So, and I think Iowa's got a season like that too, but you need to check with the dates on that. The regular season then, and we're in the North Zone in Illinois, is April 14th through May 15th. But you can only hunt certain segments, and that's on your permit. Check your permits and make sure you're hunting the right segment. There's first through fifth season. Make sure you're hunting on those dates and times. In Illinois, it's from half an hour before sunrise to 1 o'clock. In Iowa, you can hunt all day, sunrise to sunset. So there is a difference there. Illinois, you can only have 3 permits. Otherwise, the rules and regs are pretty much the same. There's not a whole lot of difference between the hunting, except the hunting times. And one thing I did want to mention, there's a little village just north of Morrison called Malvern. And if you've never been north of Morrison, you've probably never even heard of this place. The other day I was driving down through there. I work on a farm just on the other side of it. And I saw these black spots in the road. I thought, man, those look awful big for crows. And I drove in, and right in the middle of this little, it's a crossroads basically, there was a hen turkey walking down the road with probably a 2 to 3 year old gobbler right behind her. And she didn't want anything to do with him, and he's all strutting, and he's puffed up, and his feathers are all big, and he looks huge. And It's coming, And then this morning, I was out on a pond job I was working. They were starting to gobble. So I think between the warm weather, the length of daylight's stretched out now, they're going to be ready to go. So for the youth season, it should be pretty good. And for the regular season, we've had some really good hatches the last 2-3 years, and there's going to be a lot of young birds out there. So.
Spring beaver and river otter trapping.
Yeah, that's a repeat from last month. I just wanted to remind people, March 31st is it. You have to have the traps out before sunset on the 31st of March. And I've got traps out now too, and I was going to probably take them out this weekend. I haven't been doing too good this year. The creeks are way down, and the beaver haven't started moving up like they normally do. And this kind of relates back to the turkey thing too. In Illinois, the hunting, trapping, fishing license all end on the 31st of March. So if you get a turkey hunt, you have to have another license. Very easy to get. You can stop at the gas station. You can get them right off your computer too.
All right. USDA Farm Bill includes wildlife conservation programs and funding.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on this.
Yeah, the Farm Bill is actually on the back burner, kind of boiling away. They were talking about it, but now, I don't know. I suspected, we're looking at probably another continuing resolution by Friday before the funding runs out and the government shuts down, so I would bet there's going to be another extension. But it does have a lot of wildlife stuff in it. And like I said last month, get a hold of your senators and representatives and let them know you're interested in this stuff. And go
we
from
got
there.
about 5 more talking points in about 3 minutes. What are some of the big ones you want to go over?
Let's do the migration. On this pond job, I get out there before sunlight or sunrise, and it's amazing the number of birds that are starting to show up. The teal, I saw green wings and blue wings, geese, of course, of all kinds, high flocks of geese, which means those are migrators. So we've been having south winds, and they're riding it right up here. Red-winged blackbirds, killdeers, and a lot of bluebirds now. It's just not males now. I'm starting to see females, so that's pretty early. Fishing, the water's cold. The fishing's good right now. Just remember to slow your retrieves down. Live bait's good this time of the year, but it's a great time to fish.
I've already seen folks out on the river.
It doesn't surprise me. Yeah, the sauger and the walleyes. I'm sure those guys have been out there. As soon as the ice went out, they were on the water.
Yes.
So, the wood duck and bluebird house cleaning, I set an all-time record this year as far as mice in my bluebird house. I got one with 5 mice that jumped out at me this year. Every year there's mice in those stupid things. And I've tried all kinds of different things that wouldn't harm the bluebirds, and they still get in them. And, what you have to do is you have to unscrew the door and then slowly take it down. And I usually have a piece of wire with me. And I yanked that out, and all of a sudden there's mice flying. They look like Superman flying out of there. So get those houses cleaned, especially those bluebird houses. If they get mice in them, the mice actually will eat the eggs, and they'll drive the hens out of the houses. So all you have to do is clean it out. If you got enough time and it's getting pretty late, you can leave the door open for a week or two, just let it dry out, because there's always a urine smell in them from the mice, and it re-attracts them in. But if right now you're probably getting to the point, just clean them out, get all the garbage out that's in there, and shut them back up, and hopefully the hens will find them.
Final point, to wetland condition.
Yeah, kind of relates to the weather we've been having. They're low, very, very low. Around here, the Rock River and, the Mississippi River, the big ones. And whenever those rivers are low, the wetlands are, it's like pulling the plug out of a bathtub. When those rivers are low, the wetlands are dry. And the other day, I managed one of about 5 acres, and it finally started to getting a pool in it. But the creek, about 200 yards from it, there's rock on the sides, which normally this time of year is covered with 3 feet of water. So I'm afraid, the migration's going to be stymied so much by the lack of water.
Again, if people want to find out more information, that number?
815-772-2124, extension 3. That's amazing. At 66 years old, I still remember that.
Very good. And we got you in on, looks like April 8th.
I will put that down, sir.
All right, talk to you then.
All right, thank you.
You're listening to AM 1340 KROS, Clinton, Iowa.
FM 105.9.